Welcome back to another video, but just in case you're new here and you're not one of the 100 subscribers that I have, my name is Giuliano and I love watches, and in fact I even work for a micro brand here in Japan. More on that later. Today I want to talk to you about a very special holiday that I have been celebrating for most of my life, Lunar New Year. For those who are unaware, Lunar New Year is the annual celebration of the beginning of the lunar calendar. Contrary to popular belief, it's not actually just celebrated in China. In Japan, they call it Kyushogatsu, which literally translates to Old New Year, because prior to the late 19th century, Japan actually celebrated the Lunar New Year instead of the Gregorian calendar's New Year's Eve. In Vietnam, they refer to it as Tet, and the traditions are actually rather different from how you would celebrate it in China. What does any of this have to do with watch collecting? If you've been collecting watches for a while, or if you even have a passing interest in watches, you may have seen here and there a limited edition Chinese New Year watch or Lunar New Year watch. You will have seen it from the likes of IWC, Longines, or even Audemars Piguet. And I don't know if you have ever wondered this, but how come you never see any Christmas themed watches? How come you've never seen any Ramadan themed watches or Hanukkah themed watches? I think the primary reason is because those other holidays or those other annual events are very focused or centered around a religious belief. On the other hand, Lunar New Year is not necessarily related to a specific religion. Another reason why some brands feel as if they have more freedom to create a Lunar New Year exclusive watch is because the Lunar New Year is also represented by an animal. It is represented by one of the 12 zodiac animals per year. For example, I was born in the year of the tiger. If I were a brand and I was creating a watch to celebrate Lunar New Year from my birth year, I would probably select a tiger-themed watch. So this gives designers and watchmakers even more inspiration when creating their designs. Anyway, enough about that. In this video, I want to talk about some of the best Lunar New Year watches, which I find affordable, that you can check out if you are interested in celebrating Lunar New Year this year. Additionally, I've chosen these watches because I think even beyond this upcoming holiday, they will also be good watches in anyone's collection. So I want to start with my newest watch, the Vario Versa Year of the Horse edition. If you are on social media and you like watches, it is most likely that you have already heard about Vario. Just in case you haven't though, Vario is a Singapore-based brand that initially started out creating straps or other accessories for watches. Eventually, they released the Vario Versa, which actually won an award for great design. The Vario Versa, in a way, it's like a mind meld between the JLC Reverso and the Cartier Tank. This specific limited edition model from Vario is the Vario Versa Year of the Horse, and on one side you have a fantastic vermilion dial, which would almost seem minimalistic if not for the fact that it has a smattering of gold flecks across the dial. In Japan, this would be called makie. While this side is understated, and to tell you the truth, it might be difficult to tell the time, all it takes is to remove your watch and then you easily flip it over and reveal the white enamel side. This one is way easier to tell the time. You have numerals, there's a minute track. In a lot of ways, it's just a completely different vibe. I was recently in Taiwan, I'll have a video on that later, and I just had this watch on constantly. Of course, it matched my outfit, but seriously, it's a very comfortable watch. It has a 20mm lug width, and it has a dual Swiss quartz movement, which means although you have to deal with two crowns on both the top and the bottom of the watch face, it means that you can keep track of two different time zones. But I'm happy to say that even though I haven't been actively celebrating Lunar New Year for the past several weeks, I still find myself constantly reaching for this watch. In fact, this is difficult for me to give wrist time to my other watches at the moment. I highly recommend this, and if you sign up for the newsletter, you can also get 8% off on your first purchase at Vario. The next watch that I want to recommend to everyone is the newest limited edition watch from Minim. Minim kind of took the micro brand world by storm late last year when it was officially launched by Chloe, the founder. Unlike many other micro brands, Chloe managed to launch this entire brand through her own self-financing. She did not use any crowdfunding methods whatsoever. Despite that, she managed to fit in an elaborate grade Sellita movement, hand-wound, of course, to match the dressy design. She has premium straps, and it is primarily assembled in the UK. By the way, I'm a huge fan of the versions with the Chinese characters, and I'm glad that all of the original MN01 versions have this beautiful CNC guilloche pattern. I think that's so awesome. It's a really nice dressy piece, and it's complemented by this onion style crown because she was inspired by these great German vintage watches from the 20th century. I also had the privilege of interviewing her right before her brand launched, and you can read that interview right now at the link below. This watch was really special to Chloe, and it goes back to her roots growing up in Hong Kong. And in fact, the watch is named after her mom, but it also has a dual meaning about kindness, about joy, and prosperity. At just below 1,200 British pounds, I think this is a can't miss deal. Again, a Swiss movement, and it's well below $1,500. I genuinely don't think you can find many watches with such good design at that price point. Check out Minim at the link in the description. The next watch that I want to recommend to you is actually not explicitly made for the Lunar New Year, but I find that in a way it works best for the Lunar New Year and beyond. I'm talking about the Knis. Knis is a micro brand located in Kyoto, and I had the privilege of reviewing their beautiful Sunray wine red watch. Inside this understated, dressy / fun weekend watch is a Workhorse Miyota 8 series movement. It comes with a Jubilee style bracelet with a butterfly clasp and a surprisingly good anti-reflective coating on the flat sapphire glass. I mentioned that a lot on my Instagram and also in my review. I'll link in the description again. But it was genuinely shocking. I'm not even being hyperbolic here. It's really good. I literally have zero complaints about this watch. And I think even beyond the upcoming Lunar New Year, you will be able to use this watch. It's not limited to the Lunar New Year. I can totally see someone wearing this to work every single day, and this being their only watch. At the moment, you can buy this watch directly from Knis for 250 euros, or you can even buy it for less than that if you sign up for their newsletter and receive a 5% discount code. The Fairer Thorne Gold. I was talking with my good friend Brian, who also is the co-founder of the Watch Brief, the other day, and we talked about how Fairer is satisfied with being a micro brand. It's not trying to be an independent, or at least that's what it seems like. When so many other micro brands constantly seesaw from either making homage watches or making these monstrosities that are almost contrarian in their design and their attempt to be so different from these established brands, Fairer has always seemed, at least to me, as if they know exactly what they're going for with their design language. They are completely consistent, and I love their use of colors in their design. It never feels derivative, and it never feels like it's too much. I was a big fan of their World Timer collection, which was released, I think, almost 2 years ago now. And unfortunately, the version that I wanted was out of stock by the time I sold a kidney to buy it. So imagine my surprise when a few days ago, I received a newsletter from Fairer saying that not only have they released another World Timer, but it has a beautiful crimson red color, and you can get it with a PVD gold coated case. Maybe they didn't explicitly state that it's for the Lunar New Year, but it's for the Lunar New Year. Inside this World Timer is an elaborate grade Sellita movement. I believe it's the SW330-2. If I'm wrong, I'm going to edit this part out completely and you will never know that I was such a fool to not have the exact movement memorized. I just think it's such a stylish watch, especially when it's paired with that red velvet strap. I will say this though, the fact that it's PVD gold is a bit concerning. The reason why is because, in case you didn't know, if you end up scratching a PVD coated item and it wasn't done well, you will most likely reveal the original color. In this case, it is a stainless steel metal. I kind of wish they would have sprung for like a real gold case. I understand that that would have increased the price even more, but I think that extra mile would have made a difference. Speaking of which, if you heard World Timer, if you heard Swiss movement, you probably were already thinking, okay, we're looking at about $3 grand minimum. Well, I'm happy to say that this comes in at around $1,750 US. Since I've unfortunately used up the money that I got from selling my kidney before, I guess I'll sell my liver this time. I'm sure it'll work out. This next watch actually needs a disclaimer, and not for the reason that you might think. As I mentioned earlier, I work in Japan for a small micro brand, and this watch is actually from that same small micro brand. But unfortunately, I'm not getting commission from this video. In fact, I don't even have a discount code. So, yay, I'm unbiased. But jokes aside, I think that the Kaguya Akanei Tsukimi deserves a spot on this list, especially to celebrate the upcoming Lunar New Year. This watch was originally designed just to celebrate the Tsukimi, or the moon viewing, of 2025. After the prototype was made, we all realized, wait, hold on, this would be a great Lunar New Year watch. The dial is made from mother of pearl, or raden, as they say in Japan. What that means is that no two dials will be exactly the same. Of course, they can be very, very similar, but if you actually just Google the different Kaguya models that we have online, and you just look at the pictures posted by our customers, you will see that a lot of the dials can look wildly different from each other. And we consider the Kaguya Akanei Tsukimi as a homage moon phase. What does that mean? Well, a true moon phase movement will basically have a module or a gear which works on a 29.5 day scale. It literally tracks the phases of the moon. Unfortunately for this one, this is not a real or a true moon phase movement. Instead, it modifies an existing Ahangju three-hander movement, and the date wheel has been replaced with the moon disk. So that is why we refer to it as a homage moon phase. If you are looking for a true moon phase movement, however, I highly recommend you check out Christopher Ward or Frederick Constant. They make fantastic, like genuinely good moon phase watches. But you might find that you're gonna spend well north of $1,000. I think Christopher Ward is the cheapest, and even that it's still above $1,000. Meanwhile, the Kaguya Akanei Tsukimi, with its gorgeous red dial, and you can also pay a little bit extra to get the FKM rubber strap that matches that red dial, you're looking at around $370, or less if you use the 10% discount code that you get by subscribing to the newsletter. I think it matches the vibe of a Lunar New Year celebration perfectly, and if you, like me, are Asian and you celebrate Lunar New Year, you will find that your uncles or your aunties will complement the matching red dial you have with your red collared shirt. Or am I the only one who wears a red collared shirt every single New Year's? So once again, full disclosure, I do work for this company. Unfortunately, I don't get commission for mentioning this in the recommended watches, but I think after showing it to you, I think you can understand why I'm recommending it alongside Minim and Knis and all these other brands. So there you have it. I've just recommended a couple of watches that I think you can wear for your upcoming Lunar New Year celebration. Although by the time that this video is released, you probably have only like 3 days before Lunar New Year. I'm not sure if any of these watches will arrive on time, but let's hope, I guess. I think in watch collecting, it's important to remember that you don't need any watch whatsoever. However, I like to think of the Lunar New Year watch as a way to commemorate the past year, and as sort of a wish or a prayer that this upcoming year will be just as good. And again, I just want another excuse to spend my money on a watch. For a full comprehensive list that includes other watches, check out the link in the description for our blog post about the best Lunar New Year watches for 2026.